Good evening, interns, tutors, and RPs, and other pharmacists who might have joined us. My name is Tabang Seolela. I am the manager in the CPD and Registration Department of Pharmacy Council. I just want to take this opportunity to welcome you all for our second intern workshop for 2026. And I just want to take you through a few items that you must take note of as part of our house rules. The first one is that to ask questions, please use the question and answer function on Teams or the comment section if you are joining us on YouTube. Please note that the session is planned for 3 hours, and we will appreciate if you can stay with us until the end to get all information firsthand. And towards the end of the workshop, you will be requested to complete a survey to confirm your attendance and rate the workshop. The presentation will be available on the website tomorrow on the 26th of February 2026. Now let's go straight into our presentation. Okay. We just want to start by congratulating our interns for successfully completing their BPharm degree, and we warmly welcome them to the 2026 SAPC internship program. And interns should also note that this marks an important milestone in their professional journey, wherein they will be offered the opportunity to translate their academic knowledge into practical experience. So we encourage you to make full use of this opportunity, because this is what will shape you as our future pharmacists. And then now we're going to look at our program for tonight. So the first item is welcome. That's what I've just done. And then the introduction I've also done. And then we're going to look at the introduction to pre-registration. So that presentation will continue up to around 7:15, and it will be facilitated by myself. Afterwards, we're going to have our assessors and moderators who will be taking you through the portfolio of evidence part of the presentation, and that will start from 7:15 until 7:30. We will have a 10 minutes short break. From there, we will be continuing with the portfolio of evidence until 20 to 9. And then we're going to have a Q&A session. And then from there, we will close our workshop. And then the outline of my presentation is as follows. We will look at the legal framework, pre-registration evaluation. We will also navigate the SAPC website, paying more attention on the intern page, the CPD page. That's what we are interested in tonight. And then from there, we will also look at what delays the release from internship. Some of the reasons will be discussed in there. And we will also look at the portfolio of evidence reassessments, appeals, consultation procedures. We will also look at unprofessional conduct and the 2026 portfolio of evidence competency standard statistics. And again, we will look at the process for applying for community service. and also we'll share the contact details of Pharmacy Council office in case you want to contact us. So when we start with the legal framework for pre-registration, so there is Pharmacy Act 53 of 1974, which is what we are or is mandating us as Pharmacy Council on what needs to be done. So the registration with council as an intern is essential before commencement of internship. And for you to be able to register as an intern, you need to have been placed or been allocated a pharmacy which is approved to train, and also being or have entered into a contract with a registered tutor and having paid the prescribed fee. So once you have met all those requirements, then you can, we will be able to register you. And pharmacy graduates are required to undergo 12 months of practical training. So this is important because if you can't complete 12 months of practical training, unfortunately, you won't be registered as a pharmacist because you wouldn't have met the internship requirements. So all this information, if you can go to the regulations relating to pharmacy education and training and regulations relating to the registration of persons and the maintenance of the register, you will find it in more detail there. And then the scope of practice of a pharmacist intern. So the scope of practice of a pharmacist intern is the same as the scope of practice of a pharmacist, but the only difference here is that an intern functions under the supervision of a tutor. So as interns, you are not yet qualified to function independently. So you need your tutor to give you support and guide you in order to become a pharmacist in future. And then interns in academic institutions, manufacturing and wholesale pharmacists must complete 400 hours of supervised practice in an approved community or institutional pharmacy. So that is a requirement for those interns. And as they are to complete the 400 hours, it is important to note that your tutor remains responsible for your training, and you need to make arrangements prior to the period of the 400 practice. And when you do the arrangements for the practice at the institutional or community pharmacy, please make sure that if you can't go at once for the 400 hours, at least you must make sure that you are in the facility for 5 consecutive days. And while you are there, make sure that you keep records, because that will become handy when you're completing your portfolio of evidence entries. And the supervising pharmacist must complete the declaration of completion of 400 hours, as well as the progress reports online. So this is important because if this is not done, unfortunately, it will delay your internship. And there is also what we call cessation of contract. So here we're just indicating that the internship contract may be terminated between an intern and a tutor for various reasons. And in that case, if, for example, the tutor maybe is transferring to another facility, the intern can enter into a contract with another tutor in that case so that the internship is not being interrupted. So this must be done on time. The session must be done on time to avoid delays on completion of internship. And what you are required to do, the first thing is to submit an online application, and then also make sure that you enter into a new contract with the new tutor. and make sure that if in case you're changing facilities, make sure that the facility that you are at is also approved to train interns. And there is also a fee that you need to pay when you're doing cessation of contract. And this application must be submitted at least 7 days prior to the session date to council. This is just to make sure that there's no interruption between you moving from one tutor to the other. And then there is also the removal of name from the register. So in terms of Section 11 of the regulations relating to registration of a person and maintenance of registers, the registrar may remove from the register of pharmacist interns the name of a pharmacist intern who has completed their internship to the satisfaction of council or has not completed their internship to the satisfaction of council or has discontinued their internship with the consent of council or no longer complies with the requirements and conditions for registration as a pharmacist intern or is deceased. So those are some of the situations wherein the registrar may remove the name from the register, but a person whose name has been removed from the register will be notified thereof, and any registration certificate issued shall be deemed null and void. So as much as the registrar can remove the name from the registrar can also restore a name. So in case your name was removed, you can also apply for your name to be restored. There is also a process that needs to be followed there. So the first thing you need to complete or submit to council a completed application form for the restoration of the name to the register. And this must be accompanied by acceptable documentary evidence that they comply with the conditions under which they may be registered as pharmacist interns, and acceptable documentary evidence from a tutor to the effect that they have resumed their internship. So once you have provided all those requirements, including the fee applicable, then we will be able to restore your name back into the register of interns. And then now let's look at the pre-registration evaluation. So as interns, you are going to be evaluated on 4 components. That is the pre-registration examination, which is written on the online platform. Secondly, the portfolio of evidence, which is submitted on the CPD online system. The progress report submitted online by the tutor, and the completion of 365 days of supervised practical training. So these are the areas that we will be focusing at during your internship. And what is important for you to note is that for the online exam, it's an open book examination, which is made up of 120 questions, and each question is assigned 1 mark. There is no negative marking, and the general practice section is accounting for 70%, and the calculations for 30%, and the pass mark for the general question is 50%, the calculations is 60%. And then with regard to the portfolio of evidence, so interns here are required to submit 6 portfolio of evidence entries, and there is they must select 1 competency standard per domain. And please note that for domain number 5, competency standard 5.3 is compulsory, and all your entries that were submitted will be assessed and the results will be released as per schedule published in the Intern and Tutor manual. We will also look at the schedule after the slide. And results for entries submitted after submission deadline will be released on the next release date. Please take note of that. And resubmit all entries not yet successful until you are successful in those entries. And you will be deemed competent once you are successful in 6 portfolio of evidence entries. And then for the institutional and community pharmacy, here we are looking at the progress reports. Institutional community pharmacies are, interns are required to submit 7 progress reports, while manufacturing and wholesale interns are required to submit 9 progress reports and the declaration of 400 hours. And the interns in academia are to submit 3 progress reports and the declaration of 400 hours and achievement of master's qualification. And there should be proof of, favorable reports from the tutor is also, those reports, they must be favorable. Otherwise, that will also delay your release from internship. And maybe while we are still on the progress reports, it's also important to note that the progress reports are to be submitted at particular intervals, like in week 12 of internship, you need to submit week 24, week 36, just like that. So if you can look at your manual, you will find more information on how you're supposed to ensure that your tutors are submitting your progress reports on time. Please take it as your responsibility to remind your tutors to submit so that you're not being disadvantaged. And then here, the slides is just showing the submission deadlines for the portfolio of evidence entries. So this is also available in your Intern and Tutor manual on page 33. And I just want to take you through the first 3 columns just to make sure that you understand the deadlines correctly. So the first column indicates the last date for submission of portfolio of evidence entries by interns. So this is the last date on which you are expected to submit. It's not like it's the date of submission. Anything submitted before or on a particular date, for example, the 5th of January, and the second, so that's what it means. Anything submitted before or on that day. That's what we mean. So we have provided the last date for submission. And then the next column, it shows the last date for verification by the tutor. So meaning anything verified before or on that day will be submitted for assessment. So meaning entry submitted by the 5th, before or on the 5th of January by interns and verified by the tutors before or on the 7th of January will be submitted for assessment, and the results will be released on the 26th of January 2026. So this doesn't mean you must wait for the 5th of January to submit your entries. As long as your entry is ready, please make sure that you submit it to allow your tutor enough time to go through it. And in case there are things that need to be corrected, the tutor will also have time to return it to you. You make necessary corrections and resubmit. So please make sure that these deadlines are just guiding you on how we are operating in the office. And we will appreciate if you can have your submission deadlines with your tutors, which are designed in such a way that they will help you not to miss these submission deadlines for your entry to be assessed at that particular cycle. And then if you can see, there are different colors there. There are some dates that are in a goldish brownish color. So those dates, they shows that entries that were released, for example, on the 16th of February, they um, were going to be able, I mean, if an intern meets the requirement to sit for the pre-registration examination that is scheduled for the 4th and 5th, I think it's the 3rd and 4th, if I'm not mistaken, it means that if the interns met the requirements by the 16th of February, they will be able to book for that examination. So please take note of those dates and also the booking dates that the office will share with you for each examination, and make sure that you book accordingly. In case you miss the normal bookings, you will be expected to pay the late booking penalties. And so it's important also to take note of that so that you are aware of what is happening. And according to council policy, appeals must be submitted within 1 calendar month after the release of results. Entries must be submitted by 12 p.m. on the last date of submission. Entries submitted after 12 p.m. on the last date of submission will be assessed in the next submission cycle. Please take note of those timelines. And interns are advised to submit 6 portfolio of evidence entries within the first 6 months in order to increase your chances of sitting for the August exams, especially those interns that registered in 2026. And also note that entries submitted after 30 November 2026 will only be assessed in January 2027. So it's also important to take note of that because in December, after the release of results on the 14th of December, our assessors and moderators won't be available to look at your entries. And the other thing that you should also note is that you are allowed to submit 9 entries for free, meaning remember you're submitting 6 entries, 1 from each domain. So in case you are unsuccessful, the office allows you to make a resubmission of only 3 entries. After the 3rd entry, it means you will be making your 10th submission. You will be expected to pay a fee of 327 Rand per entry. So please take note of that and try to do your best in order to avoid having to pay this resubmission fees. And then the portfolio of evidence feedback workshops. So during the month of May and June, we are going to host what we call the portfolio of evidence feedback workshops for interns and tutors. And the purpose of these workshops is to respond to interns' portfolio of evidence queries, and assessors will also share the portfolio of evidence assessment experience and also guide interns on how to improve the quality of their portfolio of evidence entries. So we will send you invitations when the dates are closer. Just take note that such events will be taking place towards the mid-year, and both events will take place in the evening. And then deadlines for portfolio of evidence submission to qualify for exams. So here we have provided the dates for the exams, which is the 3rd and the 4th of March 2026. It will be a Tuesday and a Wednesday. And then there is also the August exams and the October exams. So what is important for you to note here is that interns who registered in 2026 who does not meet or they don't meet the requirements to sit for the March exams. So you should be working towards meeting the requirements to sit for the August and the October exams. And then there are a normal portfolio of evidence submission deadlines. Those are the deadlines that will allow you to book for the exams without having to pay the late booking penalties. And then the late portfolio of evidence submission deadlines, those are the ones that will make you have to pay the late booking penalties. So please take note of those dates as well. And also note that these days are subject to change. And in case there are changes, you will be notified. At the same time, please refer to the SAPC website for more information, or refer to the 2026 Intern and Tutor Manual for full exam requirements. And this will also be discussed in details at the next workshop. And what is important there is that all exam bookings must be done online before the closing date. A late booking fee will be charged after the closing date until 14 days before the exams. So that you will note that. And then here are the exam entrance requirements. So interns in their 6 months of internship must have submitted at least 6 portfolio of evidence entries online and be successful in at least 3 entries and completed the practice examination. So very much important, the practice exam, please make sure that you do it. I mean, you book and sit for it, since it is a requirement for you to sit for the exam. And then the tutor must have submitted 3 progress reports, that is the 12 weeks, the 24 weeks, and I think the other one is the 36 weeks. And then, so this requirement is applicable to interns who have registered this year and they are planning to sit for the August exams. So the 6 months requirement will apply to them. And then interns in their 9th month or more must have submitted and be successful in all 6 portfolio of evidence entries and completed the practice examination. The tutor must have submitted 4 progress reports, which are indicated there, and then reattempt at the examination. So interns attempting the examination for the second time or subsequent attempt must be successful in all 6 portfolio of evidence entries to be allowed to sit for the examination. And tutors must have submitted the relevant progress report according to the intern's date of registration. And please note that there's no exam fee for the first and the second attempts. A fee will be charged on the third and subsequent attempts. Tutors will have access to intern overall results. So please take note of that. The tutors will have an idea of what's happening. And now we are going to look at the SAPC website, the intern page. So when you open the SAPC website, this will be the page wherein you are able to, as a registered person, once you have selected that you are a registered person and an intern, then you will land on this page. While you are on this page, you will be able to access the intern and tutor manual for 2026. You will also be able to access the CPD page, the pre-registration examination page, the applications. Under applications, that's where you will find different application forms, the fees there, And you will also be able to log on to your secure site by clicking on log in here or up there. And then again on this page, you can download the intern and tutor manual by clicking here. This will allow you to be able to download it. We're encouraging you to download it and have it available in your laptops so that you can be able to refer to it even when the website maybe is down or something like that. And then there is also the intern or the CPD user manual. So we are busy reviewing the manual. It will be uploaded by the end of this month, hopefully. So currently, when you click here, you're going to find the presentation from the previous year. Please don't panic. The intern CPD user manual will be uploaded not long. And then other important documents that you are able to access when you are on this page is the Good Pharmacy Practice Manual, the SA Guide, Standard Treatment Guidelines, National Drug Policy. So you will have access to all those documents. And then so for you to navigate the intern page, for now we're going to focus on the CPD because I want to show you on where to go for you to record your entries. So the first thing then, when you are on the secure site, you're going to click on CPD. And then it will take you to this. You'll see a window like this, wherein it says, please complete your annual declaration for the year. Okay, it should be, in your case, it will be for the year 2026. Before continuing with your CPD activity, it will look exactly like this. All you need to do is just to go to annual declaration, you click there. Remember, you are required to do the annual declaration, otherwise you won't be able to access the CPD page. So this is the first step. Once you have done, you have clicked on the go to annual declaration, then it will take you to this page. All you need to do is to click on new declaration. There won't be anything in your case because you have never done an annual declaration before. So the page will be, there won't be anything under year, role, completed entries. It will just be clean as is. And then once you have selected the new declaration, it will take you to this page. So the annual declaration is made up of three sections. That is the employment, the domain competencies, and the assessment section. So you are required to go through all the three steps as part of the annual declaration. The first step is the employment. Here you're going to provide your employment information. So your primary area of practice, primary employment status. So in some instance, you'll have to select the option that is applicable to you. And then here you are also going to select the one that is applicable to you. And then when you're done, you click on continue, and then it will take you to the next section. So what is important to note while you are still on this page is that the scope of practice of an intern, which is that of a pharmacist, is also provided there. If you can click on that where it's written scope of practice of intern, you will be able to access your scope in case you want to refer as you do in your annual declaration. So it's provided in there. When you're done with the employment section, then you will go to the domain competencies. So this section is made up of the 6 domains of a CPD. And for each domain, there are competency standards. So you will go through all the 6 domains, and for each domain, you will be given all the competency standards like it is now. We are on domain 1, that is public health. And you can see there is competency standard 1.1 up to 1.6. So when you're doing your annual declaration, you will indicate whether this competency standard is something that you do or you don't do that as part of your practice. So that's what you will be doing. You'll be selecting the options. From there, you click on the continue tab there, and then it will take you to the next domain, that is domain number 2, and until the last domain, that will be domain number 6. When you're done with all the domains, then the next step, it will be for you to do the assessment criteria. So this is just indicating the criteria that the assessors will be following when they're assessing your portfolio of evidence entries. So you will go through that, and then if you accept it, if you are okay with it, then you will say, I accept, meaning you are aware that this is how you are going to be assessed. And then if you want to go back, maybe you want to fix something under domain or employment, you can do that by clicking the back tab there. Then when you're done with the assessment criteria, then there will be this annual declaration window where it says, according to your selection, maybe you are a non-practicing intern, meaning if under the domains you have said, I never do this for all of the competency standards, then you will be declared non-practicing. And unfortunately, we don't have non-practicing interns. It means if you are a non-practicing, then you are no longer an active intern with us. So in case it says a non-practicing, you can always go back to look at the domain competencies part of it and make sure that you select those competency standards that are applicable to you. And once that has been corrected, you will see here, it will change to practicing, and it will be in green. And in that case, you can agree and continue. So once you have agreed and continued, then it will, it will take you to this page, which indicates that you have done the annual declaration and your status here is you are practicing. You can see under completed, it says yes. And then in case you want to update your declaration, you can always do that by clicking on update declaration. For example, maybe you change in the sector of pharmacy. You were previously in maybe manufacturing. Now you are going to work in the hospital sector. You can always update your declaration there. And then when you are done, once you are declared a practicing pharmacist or intern, then now you can go back to the CPD dashboard so that you can start to submit or record your entries. So the CPD dashboard would look like this. It is also made up of 4 sections, that is my submission, CPD cycle, domain and competencies, and archive. So under my submission, it will show you all the entries that you have submitted and their statuses. In this case, for the new interns, because they have never submitted anything, you won't see anything under my submission. And when you click or you go to the next section, that is CPD cycle, when you are on the CPD cycle, you will be able to see this. So these are the 4 steps of a CPD cycle, and there is a summary there to tell you that when you are doing the reflection on practice, which questions are you supposed to answer in order to get it right. The same thing applies to planning, implementation, and evaluation. So the 4 steps are provided in there when you click on CPD cycle. And then the next section is domain and competencies. So when you are on domain and competencies, when you click there, it will give you the 6 domains. And when you click on public health, for example, which is domain number 1, it will give you the competencies under that domain. So that's what you'll get, meaning when you are on the CPD page, you're having everything that you need from the CPD dashboard. Everything that you need for you to record an entry is provided in there. And then when you go to the last one, I think it is archive. Under archive, that's where the entries from the previous years are stored. So for you as interns, because you are submitting for the first time, there won't be anything under archive. And your entries, once you are done with your internship, they will be stored there, and you won't have access to them. Only the office will have access to those entries. And then, so when you are, I was just taking you through of what the CPD dashboard is providing. So when you are ready to record your entry, you go to the reflection tab there. And then once you select reflection, it will take or open this page wherein it will say identify a new learning need. Remember, reflection is the first step of a CPD cycle. That's where you're going to start. And then you click on identify a new learning need. And then this will allow you to provide a description of your reflection. And when you're done, the next page, you will save and go to planning, wherein you will also provide a description of your plan in order to close the gap that you would have identified. And then when you're done, you save and move on to implementation, which is the third step. And you will also do the same. Remember, under implementation, that's where you will also upload your evidence. So don't forget to upload the evidence. And then from there, you will go to the evaluation step. So evaluation is the last step, wherein you will be reflecting on what you have learned and how are you going to apply that knowledge, and what else do you think you need to learn in future. So that will be covered by the next presenters. And then what I want to also touch on is the plagiarism detection system for intern portfolio of evidence entries. So it's important for interns to note that each portfolio of evidence entry submitted by intern will be subjected to plagiarism detection prior to submission for tutor verification. So meaning when you are at the evaluation step, you will be requested to submit your entry for plagiarism detection. And the system will check for similarity between portfolio of evidence entries submitted by current interns against the existing database of portfolio of evidence entries submitted by current and past interns. And your tutors will have view-only access to the report without ability to modify or exclude matches. So it's important to note that at the moment, our plagiarism detection system is not working, is still under maintenance. So when you submit your entries, you won't be taken through this step. But once the maintenance is done and everything is in good working order, we will notify you so that you will start submitting your entries for plagiarism detection, or you don't get surprised when the system is instructing you to do so. So this is the process of submitting an entry for plagiarism detection. So we said you record your portfolio of evidence entry following the 4 CPD step. And then at the evaluation step, you must save and submit for similarity check. And then the system will instruct you to do that. And then you will also be required to accept Turnitin EULA. And then here, if you don't agree, then you won't be able to proceed. If you say yes, then you'll be able to submit, your entry will be submitted for similarity check, and there will be a confirmation that you receive, which says the entry has been successfully submitted. or similarity check, and then from there a similarity report will be generated. And once the report is ready, you will be able to review the results of the report. And then please note that in the office or council accept the maximum similarity score of 20%. Anything above 20 is not accepted, and therefore you will be deemed not successful if you submit an entry with a score above 20. So when you are at this step where you're reviewing your report and you find that your report is above 20%, the system will allow you to go back to work on your report, make necessary amendments, and make a submission again for similarity check. And then once you are happy with your report, you feel it's now acceptable, then you can submit your entry for verification by the tutor. So this is where you will end. Once the entry has been submitted to the tutor, you won't have access to that entry. So this is how the website will look like when, okay, yeah, maybe once your entry is submitted, yes, you won't have any access. The tutor will look at it, and if everything is okay, they will submit it for assessment. In case they want to discuss anything with you, the report will come back to you. And then here, that's how the website would look like when entries, when they are after the moderation has been done, will have a status of submitted for compliance. So this is what you will see in your screen. And then on the day which we are releasing the results, when you click on submitted for compliance, you will be able to see whether you are successful or not. And in case you are successful, the website or the page will look like this, wherein you will be able to see the assessment status saying successful, and the report will be there. So usually the assessors will give you a report. Sometimes they will be guiding you on areas wherein you didn't do well so that you can improve with your subsequent submissions. So I'm making an appeal to interns to say submitted for compliance doesn't mean you are successful. Please, when the results are released, click on that submitted for compliance and make sure that you see successful there under the assessment status. So once you are okay. So in case you are not yet successful or you are unsuccessful, here under the assessment status, it will say unsuccessful. So that's why I'm saying submitted for compliance doesn't mean you are successful. Always make sure that you see the status there. In case you are unsuccessful, the status will then change to awaiting submission, and then the report will also be available there, and then you will be able to go to reflection to start working on your entry based on the guidance that you would have received in the report from the assessors. And then so here, what delays the release from internship? I've already touched on the late submission after the 30th of November deadline, and not successful in 6 portfolio of evidence, failing the pre-registration examination, incomplete progress reports, and not having completed the required 365 days. And please note that you must submit your portfolio of evidence entries on time to avoid all those disappointments. And so this one's let me pass. And then here, portfolio of evidence reassessment, appeal, and intern assessor consultation procedure. So here what I can say is that this process, the processes are outlined in your manual if you can go to page 42. So whenever you are not happy with the assessment results, you can apply for a remarking. The process is provided in there. And whenever you are you feel that you don't really understand the assessor's comments, and you need the assessor to clarify you, the process is also there. Please note that for you to be able to have a consultation with the assessor, you should have attempted the same entry at least twice, wherein you are unsuccessful. The assessors won't be able to take you through after you have attempted an entry only once, because we believe your tutors are capable to can guide you on what is required. And then unprofessional conduct. So some of the actions that will be considered as unprofessional conduct here: pressurizing an assessor or moderator to mark your portfolio of evidence entries, threatening the assessors, and plagiarizing of present or past intents of portfolio of evidence entries. So please make sure that you avoid all these behaviors, because this will result in disciplinary actions being taken against you. So let's avoid that. And then here there are the compliance status from 2023, 2024, and 2025 in terms of the portfolio of evidence. So here we're just sharing with you this information so that you can see that interns are really improving on yearly basis in terms of their compliance with the portfolio of evidence requirements. You can see in 2023 we were at 69, and then in 2024 we were at 80%, and 2025 we are at 84%. So there is an improvement, and we are really trying to encourage you with this slide to say you can also improve from 84% to 90% if you can really start working on your entries now, and also try to respond to the assessor's comments whenever they are there. Those are the tips that I can give you, which will assist you to be competent in portfolio of evidence. And then important information: there is annual fees for interns that is payable by the 1st of June each year. And then internship must be completed within 12 months. And then the intern progress is made available to interns on the secure side. Your employers, they are also having access to your progress, as well as the tutors and the National Department of Health. They use this information to place you for the community service. And applying for community service, that is facilitated by the Department of Health. And all you need to do is to go to the website that is provided there. And that is the ICSP website. That's where you will be able to apply for community service, and all other communications regarding internship should be communicated with the Department of Health, since that is their mandate. As council, we don't do the placement of internship. And and that's how you can contact us, by submitting a query there. So please make sure that in case you are in need of assistance, you contact the office via this channel, and you will be responded to accordingly. And the last thing that I want to mention is that we will be hosting the 4th National Pharmacy Conference, and it will take place from the 11th to the 13th of October 2026 at the Inkosi Albert Luthuli International Convention Center Complex, which is commonly known as Durban ICC. And the theme of the conference is 8 Glimpse into the Future, Advancing Pharmacy Towards 2030. 50. So there is an early bird registration which closes on the 31st May 2026. We are looking forward to be with you in Devon so that we can take responsibility of our future as pharmacists together. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand over to my colleague who will do the question and answer session after the second presentation. Thank you.
A good evening, interns and everyone. My name is Makado Mlatezi, one of the assessors. So I will be taking you through the first part of the presentation, and then my other colleague Adele will do the remaining part. As you can see here, on the outline of the presentation, we will cover information about competency standards, where we'll talk about how to select a domain as well as a competency standard. We'll also talk about the portfolio of evidence, which you have been hearing it in the previous presentation, as well as the CPD cycle assessment criteria, as well as the evidence and examples. The other part that we'll talk about is assessment, and then the rest, as you can see, the professionalism, confidentiality, as well as, I would like to guide you or give you some tips on some of the challenging competency standards, and then we'll take it from there. All right. At this point, we would like to share with you some of the resources that you need to take into account that will be crucial in completing your portfolio of evidence.
Sorry.
The first one.
Sorry,
Okay.
Mr. Makado. May you please unshare and try to share in again, because we are seeing other content there. There's a share content window that is appearing.
Okay, let me check. And then now.
Okay, continue. Maybe it's from the office side. Felix will look at it. Thank you.
Otherwise, Adele can, I don't know if maybe one of...
I think it's fine now. It's fine now.
Is it fine?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. If there's any other issue, let me know. Yeah, I was still talking about the resources that you need to take into account, which are important. The first one is the 2026 Intern Tutor Manual, which is available from the South African Pharmacy Council website. And then you will also get, from that manual, you'll also get information about the criteria for assessment of portfolio of evidence entry, which is on page number 35 to 37. And there is also a checklist. Once you are done with your portfolio of evidence, before you can submit, you can also check from page number 41 to 42. There are checklists in there that can help you before you submit if everything has been completed. And then since your portfolio of evidence is going to be based on the competence that you're going to choose, they are all available from pages 62 up to 84. That will give you all information about the competence that you may need to complete. And then, of course, other resources. It'll be tutor consultation, and I've already mentioned the South African Pharmacy Council website. Okay. Now we come to the portfolio of evidence terminology that we use. The first one that you will need to know is domain. And we'll take you through on which are the domains. I think in the previous presentation, they did touch about the 6 domains. We'll also take you through on competency standards. And then the other one is the behavioral statement. So these are the things that we will be taking you through because we want you to understand what is domain, what is competency standard, and then what is behavioral statements. Okay. This is competency framework. You can see on this framework, on top there is a domain. We have given you an example of domain 2, which is safe and rational use of medicines and medical devices. That is domain number 2. You'll see other domains as we go to the domains, but this just for illustrations. Now that you have a domain 2, which is safe and rational use of medicine and medical devices, under each and every domain, there are competency standards. In some cases, there may be 5, there may be 8, so it depends on the domain. So for domain number 2, one of the competency standards is patient consultation, as you can see. That is 2.1 competency standard. You go to 2.2, so that is patient counseling. I'm sure you're going to hear more about this when Adele presents, because this is one of the competence standard that we recommend that the interns do. You can see that there are other competence standards that we have just mentioned there, from 2.3 up to 2.8. So basically, domain number 2 is having 8 competency standards as per the screen. Right. In each and every competency standard, there are behavioral statements. Again, in some cases, there's only one, and in some cases, there are 3, whatever. But in this typical example, 2.1 is having up to number 8, which means that is having 8 behavior statements. And if you can go to competence standard patient counseling, which is 2.2, this is having 9 behavioral statements. Okay. As I've already indicated to you that we will give you information on number of domains and their names. Domain number 1 is public health. And as you have seen in the previous slide, the domains are organized, clustered of competency standards. So in under public health, there are competency standards. So that is domain number 1. Number 2 is safe and rational use of medicines and medical devices. And then number 3 is to do with supply of medicines and medical devices. Domain number 4 is organization and management skills. And then domain number 5 is professional and personal practice. And you see there where they put compulsory in bracket. Here, you'll hear when my colleague presents one of the competency standard, which is 5,3, is compulsory. Here you don't have any choice. You have to do 5,3. The rest you can have a choice, and we'll take you through on which one are recommended. The last domain is education, critical analysis, and research. So these are the 6 domains where you'll be getting your competency standards, and out of those competency standards, then you'll be getting the behavioral statements. Okay. What are competency standards? They are also part of domain, and then and then in this the competency standards, and then we'll show you how they link to the domain, whatever we. So it's like a set of standard for a particular domain. So if you go under public health, then you will set a set of competency standards that are aligned to that particular domain. So in terms of the interns, so you do the entry one and intermediate, but at your level, you'll be focusing on the entry level. Right. Here, we want to show you one of the competency standards, as well as the behavioral statement. So as you can see on the screen, 2.6 is a competency standard under domain 2, which is safe rational use of medicine. So 2.6 is a competency standard that has to do with pharmacy-initiated therapy. So that is the competency standard that an intern may choose to say, under domain 2, I want to do my portfolio of evidence under 2.6 or 2.2, which I've shown you before, which was patient counseling. So in this case, we want to show you how maybe the behavioral statement under 2.6. Okay, now that you know that 2.6 pharmacy-initiated therapy is a competency standard, what are the behavior statements under this competency standard? As I've indicated in the previous slide, that some may have 9 statements. This one, 2.6, is having 4 behavioral statements. I'm not going to be reading one by one. You can see there are 4, A, B, C, and D. As we move on, we'll also be telling you that for you to be competent, you need to be seen to be competent. To be competent on 75% of the behavioral statement. So in this case, because there are 4, so you need to be competent on at least 3, which is 3/4. You'll do your numbers depending on how many behavior statements per competency standards. Okay. This slide is again showing you the clear picture of domain number 2, which is safe and rational use of medicine and medical devices. And on my right, you can see all the competencies under domain number 2. We did touch a bit on domain 2.2, which is patient counseling. And we have just been taking you through on domain 2.6, which is pharmacist-initiated therapy. So in total, there are 8 competency standards. At the bottom down there is what I've shown you in the previous slide. It's just the behavior statements for competency standard 2.6. So each and every competency standard is having its own behavior statement. So for 2.6, we're only having 4, as you can see there. Okay, continuing professional development. For your information, the term portfolio of evidence is used to describe the activities of persons and not yet considered professionals For example, undergraduate students and intern. That is why you are doing this. Then we will define or the definition of a CPD. As you can see, the acronym of continual professional development is a CPD, the process by which registered persons maintain and enhance the competence throughout the professional career. And it encompasses a range of activities, including continuing education and supplementary training. CPD enables a registered person to develop in their area of practice and demonstrate competence. So we will be going through the phases of the CPD in this particular slide. There are 4 phases, as you might have seen in the previous slides. Starting from reflection, there on the right, going to planning. From planning, we go to implementation. And then the last one is evaluation. So those are the 4 phases of the CPD cycle. And then on the assessment of phases of a CPD cycle, you need to know that in most of the cases, the scale is normally mostly 0 to 3. I'll tell you in the next slide what 0 mean up to number 3. So for you to earn 3 marks in particular, it means that in whatever you are supposed to do, you need to meet all the requirements. And for you, and then in that case, you will be able to be assigned 3 if in your portfolio of evidence, all requirements are met. In addition, colleagues, you need to follow the assessment criteria for each of the 4 phases, and those ones are available from the Intern Tutor manual, as you have been told already. In addition, you must have used an appropriately professional communication style. For example, spelling and grammar check, that one you need to do. And then make sure that your sentences, your words are properly punctuated. And then in the name of, in case of trade names, you need to make sure that they are capitalized. We're emphasizing this to you because the spelling and grammar check is not auto-corrected in the platform. So that is why we want you to manually check that before you can submit your portfolio of evidence. So make sure that you check those carefully before submitting. As I've told you, those are the algorithm of what 0 mean. If you get 0, it means it's not yet met the requirements. 1, partially met. 2, met the requirements, and 3, fully met the requirement. That is the scale that I told you about from 0 to 3, and on the right is what 0 up to 3 mean. Okay. Yeah, you can check your Intern Tutor manual for more information on how marks are allocated. And then you will, as we're told, the new version will be available in there. Okay, now let's get into the first phase of our portfolio of evidence, CPD. The first one, as you have seen in the CPD cycle, was reflection. So now this is where you need to decide on the topic or the learning title. So the learning title need to be appropriate. Let's say you are doing a portfolio of evidence on domain number 1, which is public health. So the learning title need to be appropriate and it need to be with the domain. It should be relevant to what you want to learn and to be related to the competency. CS is competency standard chosen, and when you see BS is behavioral statement. You should describe what you are intending to do after coming up with a learning title. Now you need to describe what you are intending to do, and do not simply copy the wording of the competency standard as your title. In previous occasion, we used to tell interns that, for example, if you go to domain 4, you see the company standard saying apply SOP and apply policy. Then you see that exact words as the learning title. That is what we are referring to. Don't simply copy the wording. You have to draft your own. Verbatim copies of the wording, you can already see what is going to be the outcome. The outcome is going to be not yet meeting the requirements. The learning title must be unique and describe your case study. That is what you need to know about the learning title and what you need to choose them. Again, still under reflection, there are other things that you need to ask yourself or you need to do. In addition to coming up with an appropriate learning title, you need to ask yourself, what do I need to learn? For example, you need to tell us what was your own learning need. So what was your learning need? Does what I need to learn relate to competence standard? Yes, you need to ask yourself this question, that whatever I'm putting there, does this relate to competence standard chosen? How do I know that what I need to learn? For example, we need to know what triggered you to do this portfolio of evidence. What do I hope to achieve after completion of this learning needs? I think my colleague will be able to tell you more about the learning, the learning needs, the learning trigger, and what are you hoping to achieve after completing the portfolio. If you meet all these requirements, or if you document all these three, the learning need, the trigger, and then what you hope to achieve, that is what is going to get you number 3, which is full marks, and so forth. You need to describe the learning need, make it personal reflection. Remember, the learning need is not for the assistants, it's not for the patients, whatever way. That is your own learning need. So you need to use the personal pronoun I. Be careful not to describe the learning need of others. That is what I've just said. The learning need must be related to the competency standard. Okay. Yeah, I think this is what I was just telling you on the title, for example. Learning title is either 0 or 1. You can see if you have a direct copy or similar to company standard, you are going to get 0 from the learning title. Under learning need, those are the things that you can find from the Intern Tutor manual, but they're basically telling you that for you to get 0, you will have given us an irrelevant learning need. Maybe you are doing patient counseling, then you are telling us about training of patients or training of pharmacy assistants. So that will be relevant. For you to get 1, you can see. Number 2, you can see. And then for you to get number 3, this is what I wanted to emphasize. Under learning need, for you to get a full 3 marks, you should have described what was the learning need. You should have indicated what was the trigger. And lastly, you should also have indicated what are you hoping to achieve after completing the CPT, this CPT. Then you will be able to get 3 full marks. Okay. As we have told you in the previous slides, there are checklists that you need to go through just to make sure that everything uh, has been covered before submission. In terms of the title, you'll check if their title is it short, and then whatever. In a similar manner, you'll do under reflection. So this information is available from Intern Tutor Manual. So I'm not going to be reading. So whenever you are about to submit your portfolio, make sure that you go into the checklist. All right. After finishing phase number 1 or step number 1, which was a reflection, we move on to step number 2, which is planning. So you have your title, you have indicated what you want. So you have indicated what was your learning needs, what was the trigger, what you hope to achieve. Then, now you move on to phase 2 or step number 2. Step number 2 is now more of planning. So you need to show us the plan, your plan on how are you going to do that particular activity. The first thing that colleagues you need to be aware of, planning is in future tense. So make sure that when you write planning is always in future tense, because we have seen cases where it was in other tenses. So it should be in future tense. So in the planning, you need to indicate how exactly are you going to learn this activity that you have chosen. You should be telling us how are you going to do that. So first of all, it should be in future tense. Number 2, I think I've given you, I've shown you the domain 2.6 where it had 4 BS. BS, you can see, is behavioral statement. So domain 2.6 had 4 BS. So now, when you are in planning, you need to make sure that in your planning description, you need to cover at least 70. Your planning need to be linked to at least 75% of the BS. Meaning, if you are having 4 BS, your planning description should link to at least 75% of the BS. And then you need to provide specific details. For example, GPP, page number 2.18 of resources linked to the BS. Include the reason why each resource is chosen, what evidence can I submit. So I'm going to summarize this. For you to be able to get full marks under planning, you should tell us, first, you should write in future tense, and you should cover at least 75% of behavioral statement, and you should give us specific resources where you will be doing some reference, specific resources talking about the specific page number, the chapter, whatever, and then the reason why you are okay. If I'm reading GPP 2.8, why am I reading? So it should provide a reasoning. So is future tense, reasoning behind your statements, covering maybe 100% of the statement, and giving specific information on specific resources. That will earn you full 3 marks. On the right, don't only describe how you plan to proceed, but say what you are going to do, how you are going to do. I think I've just summarized everything around planning. So I'll move on to the next phase, which is implementation. Implementation is having 2 parts. The first one is to describe what you said you were going to I mean to yeah what you said you're going to do. The second part is giving attaching evidence. So again, implementation here it will be in the past tense. You need to provide a context: what, when, where, and how. And the reference made to the evidence in the implementation description need to be there. And again, when you describe, you also need to show linkage, as I've said in the previous slide. All right. So basically, you need to tell the story, keep it personal, and then we'll talk about the evidence letter. I think my colleague will cover more about the evidence letter if he's not part of this. The last one, the phase number 4 is step 4, which is evaluation. So under evaluation, it should be in future tense, and it should cover for you to get full marks. It should be telling us what you have learned. How did you apply what you have learned? And then how did the new learning is? And last, what is your future learning need? These are the 4 things that you need to cover under evaluation. I'm repeating. You need to tell us what you have learned. Number 2, you need to tell us how the new learning has influenced your way of practice. Number 3, how did you apply this new learning? And then number 4, what is your future learning need? If you cover all of those, you should be able to get a full 3 marks. And then when we talk about the new learning need, I'm just mentioning it here. My colleague may also mention it. If you did compound medicine, you cannot say a new learning need is to compound another medicine. For your information, the new learning need should be any other activity under the same domain. I've shown you, I think domain 2, we have shown you 8 CS, meaning if you have done 2,2, which is counseling, then the future learning need may be any of the 7. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to move on. A stepwise approach to completing the portfolio of evidence. I think you need to check the feedback. The tutor will verify, enter the submit online, whatever. I think this is what Pombe Tabang has been trying to show you as well. So, and then start a CPD cycle, read the BS, select the competency standard, and you go for that. I think this is just to give information on how do you do that. And then you do the annual declaration, which you guys will just been short long. Okay. Yeah, we've already told you that the CPD cycle is having 4 steps, which I've just described. Once you have chosen the competence standard, check again that it is appropriate for your practice setting. Read all the BS, decide on the appropriate and sufficient evidence. As you compare of the CPD is relevant to the chosen. Yes, that is why we are reminding you to always check and please refer to checklist. Requirements, I think this was mentioned. You need to submit 6 portfolio of evidence entry, and it's going to be one from each domain, and you have luxury to choose, but we'll guide you on which one to go for. But domain 5,3 is compulsory. Okay, I think Babome Tabang did talk about that for you to be, you need to be successful in 6 of them, and then please do not submit all 6 entries at once. And also do not wait till November, because sometimes it becomes a problem. So I think what we want to tell you here, have the plan of when I'm going to do them now, February. And the idea here is don't do all of them at the same time. For each domain, you choose one computer. I think I've already mentioned that. And then you need to read all the BS carefully. And then what else more? Yeah, if there are 3 BS, it means, yeah, 1/3 is 33, 2/3 is 7. So basically, for you to get 75, for a CS having 3 BS, you have to be of that is what we're trying to say here. But in case there are 4, then at least have 1. Okay, you can go through your manual, you get all that information. Colleagues, each portfolio of evidence entry must reflect individual work. No group activities are acceptable. I think you have been told already. Criteria for the evidence, it needs to be annotated, it needs to be current, valid, authentic, and sufficient. I'm quickly going to give you example of which one is acceptable or not. But before that, I want to take you through on the evidence. When you say that it should be annotated. If you look on on your left, so we tell us the mechanism to give the meaning of evidence, make it easy to read. You justify your evidence. It must be plain, whatever. Don't just merely put labels, single words, or whatever, lacking links, whatever. So basically, we want you to tell a story. And the story is what have I done to show the behavior. Pick one. We're just trying to show you how to annotate. The meaningful annotation, which is on the left. Yes, it is 20. Okay, well, this is just an example. 20 January 26. You see, when you annotate this date, for a prescription to be valid, it must be presented for dispensing within 1 month. Let's say today is the 24th of whatever. So you will be able to indicate that this date, yes, this prescription is valid because today is the 25th of February and the prescription was written maybe on the 20th of February. It is still within 30 days. That is what we want when it comes to annotation. Of course, what we have on the right to say this is the date of the prescription, it doesn't tell the story. Okay, when it comes to evidence, you can see here someone just wrote medicine ordered, batch number, expiry date. It doesn't tell the story. Okay. Okay, when you come to this second example, it's saying invoice from the supplier. Okay, we can see that products ordered, yes, quantity received, yes, expiry date. Doesn't tell a story as well. So if you want to show the invoice or to annotate, I think the next one will tell you how we want it or how it should be done. I'm not going to be reading all of them, looking at the time. I think I'm just trying to say to you maybe one example. I'm looking at the delivered to. So someone wants to annotate if the address is correct. You see, I checked the name of the pharmacy on the parcel to confirm that it is indeed for my pharmacy. So like you are annotating on the address. I check the medicine names, transpexer, something like that. So that is what we want you, as you annotate. I think you're going to hear more on the second part of the presentation. So this one is like what we're expecting from you. Like it should be detailed, it should be telling the story, and then so forth. Portfolio of evidence entry must relate to, I think was spoken about that. It should relate to exposure to CS during the internship period. We don't want to see or you telling us what you've done when you were still at the university, because the portfolio of evidence should relate to what you're exposed to when you're doing your internship. Don't include anything from your undergraduate years. Okay, I think we have spoken about this already anyway. Metabang did tell you about scope of practice, whatever, but what I can tell you is that the scope of practice, for those ones who may want to quote scope of practice, I think you need to go to the pharmacist website, and then you'll be getting links to the latest scope of practice. Because if you quote GPP, that will be updated. Okay. Now, on the validity of evidence, for example, if the competency is about how to fry an egg, and your evidence is about how crispy the bacon is, so that those two don't relate. So the evidence won't be valid. The evidence need to be authentic, basically own work, not fabricated, not AI generated. Okay. I think we've spoken about this. I'm going to move to the poll. Oh, Taban, I'm not on the poll number 1.
Mr. Makado, if you can just leave that slide up for a moment. We ask interns to please scan the QR code and complete the question on your screen. We'll just leave it for a moment. We'll also put the link in the chat on YouTube and on the Q&A section. And then I will share the results with you in a moment.
Thank you very much. Interns, you scan the code and then you complete, then we'll be sharing the result within a moment. Thank you for that. You tell us when you're ready. Okay, I think you should be done. Let me continue. You will be, I think we'll have time to share the result. So let me continue to the next slide. Again, on the evidence, this one, you need to add the date stamp.
Sorry, Mr. Makado?
Yes.
I'm sharing the results on the screen, if you can see it.
Should I go out?
Yes,
Stop
you're
sharing?
going. Yes.
Okay, let me. Okay. Okay, the first question is, if you choose a CS that is 8 behavior statement, how many BS must you satisfy to achieve 75%? I think the bulk of the interns chose 6. So let's see, 6/8, I guess, is just do my calculation here, to get 75%. 5 divided by 8 is short. Then 6 divided by 8 is 75. So for those ones who chose 6, thank you very much. For those ones who came with 3, 7, and 9, yeah, for 7 and 9, it's more than 75% is okay. But for 3, note that the correct answer is 6. So 6/8, 25%. Thank you. Can I continue? Let me
Yes, sir.
share the slide. So, okay. Tell me, is it? Can you see that?
Yes,
Can
can you
let me
put it?
see?
There we go.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. Now on the evidence, we just want to quickly say that on the photo you need to stamp. It should be authentic, and then it need to show clearly that let's say you are showing us your picture presenting, so you need to emphasize that whatever, because it could be anyone else. So make sure that whatever you put then is very clear. And then in terms of reference, you can see we've given you the South African medicine formulary, just to say to put the front cover of the book. That cannot be enough reference. We told you that you need to show us the specific page number, whatever way. For example, now if you move on to the delivery notes, let's say you are showing us how you are receiving stock. You just get a pack of invoices, then you take a picture. So yes, we can see their delivery notes, but what does this show? So stock was delivered but received by whom? It doesn't tell us who received it, who was it signed, whatever. So basically, if you want to show an invoice, go to the invoice like what we've shown you, and then you annotate. Electronic evidence, sometimes you can use the website or the links, the URL, that can be acceptable. So I think we're going to, yeah, okay, put yourself in the assessor's shoes before submitting the evidence. Evidence, no unclear photo, guys. Screenshots or evidence. So make sure that before you can attach them, they are very clear, and don't upload them upside down. We have seen that before. So that is why we're telling you. It needs to be clear, because if it's not clear, if it's illegible, then it will be difficult to read. And then it shouldn't be in a very small font that we cannot see. The evidence must be in one document. In one document, we are referring to don't attach different documents. So combine your documents before you can put them into the evidence, please, because there are cases where we see multiple pages, so that becomes cumbersome. So it needs to be one document. You need to annotate as we have shown you, and then link the evidence with the BS. For example, show how evidence satisfies the BS, identify your own signature, so forth and so forth. And evidence should follow a logical order. What kind of evidence? If I'm providing information to a patient, I think there are a couple of things that we can talk about. I'm just looking at, yeah, you can do that. If maybe you're presenting to them, you are showing us that we have done training to the staff members, we'll probably need to see the attendance register, whatever. So basically here, we're just encouraging you to give us tangible evidence. If you go for prescription, whatever, you can see if talking to patient prescription, if you're providing information, maybe the reference materials, the whatever. And then if you are consulting a patient, maybe you can show the evidence, the patient history, the request from the patient that they wanted to be you to cancel them, whatever. But what if I'm consulting the doctor? You see, you can also show that as evidence. Okay. I think was spoken about the checklist. After each and every step or phase, there are checklists, so you need to check that. Evidence summary. Evidence is proof of what you have done, not merely reading an article, not a theoretical scenario, not witnessing someone else. Must convince the assessor that you perform the activity. Must be professional, neat, clear, and not a note scribbled on a piece of paper. We'll go to poll number 2, which again you take you can scan, and then you quickly go for this one, and we'll show the result shortly. Yeah, and then I think when you're maybe give them some time to scan. Then I will exit so that I can see the result from the other side. Then we'll come back for, I think, the next 2 polls. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing so that we can see the result from the other side. Okay, let me stop sharing. Okay. Yes, which domain would this learning trigger align to? Okay, I didn't scan the code myself, so I think the question was about the domain. Let me see. The bulk of the majority of the interns are choosing domain number 1. Then, yeah. All right. Unless maybe you can read for me the question, maybe, or I didn't scan the code.
Apologies, Mr. Mercado, the slides got mixed up. It's referring to the next slide.
Okay. Should I go back?
Yes, you can go back.
Okay, sorry about that. Then I'm sure I'll be able to, okay. Let me do this. So we'll move on to the next miss. Okay, I think this one, I think this was where the answer, where the question was coming from, right? So, yeah, it is domain number 1, public health. So we're just showing you that kind of information. Okay, public health, promote health and wellness. And then, okay, poll number 3 intends to attempt all polls before the next slide. So we have another poll, guys. Maybe do the scanning. Let me also scan, and then okay, we'll go to the other side just to see what the answers are. Okay, so this one. So here the question is saying choose the most appropriate learning title. Participation in COVID-19 health campaign, active Big Academic Hospital, promotion of health and wellness, promotion of COVID-19. So most of the interns, they went to participation in COVID-19 campaign, active Big Academic Hospital. So you can see that when it comes to the learning, the title, is descriptive. It's very clear that you want to participate in COVID-19 health campaign, and it's also showing the place where you'll be conducting this campaign. Thank you very much. Promotion of health and wellness, not really telling much, as well as the promotion of COVID-19. So the typical example that you guys need to go for is number 1, as you have chosen that. Okay, let me go to, I think the next, there are 4 of them. Let me see the next one. Okay, we'll go to this poll again, quickly do this again, and then we can look at this one. Then that will be the end of my session. Okay, let me go to the other side and see the poll. Which is the best learning niche based on the competency standards? According scan mine. Okay, number one, I needed to learn how to teach. Number two, I need to learn how to provide advice and participate in public health campaign. And then I need to learn how to speak in public. Colleagues, I think um, majority of you went to to number two, which again is giving more information about the learning need. I need to learn how to provide advice and participate in public campaign. So this is in relation to domain one, uh, under competency standard to participate in health campaign. Thank you. Let me check. I think the next slide, if not mistaken, it should be break time. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Let me pause here, stop sharing, and I think over to the office for guidance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Makado. So we are running a bit behind with time. I will request that we come back at 8 o'clock. It's 8 minutes to 8. So if we can have 8 minutes break and come back at 8 o'clock, so that we can continue with our workshop and try to finish on time. Thank you.
Good evening, colleagues. Are you back? Can you hear me?
Good evening, Adele. Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks, Tabang. I'm going to stop Natalie's screen. Can you see my screen? I just want to share quickly.
Okay. Yes, we can see your screen.
And just presentation mode.
Yes, please. Put it on presentation mode, Adele.
Let's see. It's not responding to presentation mode.
As I take over, maybe.
Tabang, my screen doesn't want to go to presentation mode.
Okay,
if someone
share.
can maybe share for me, thank you so much.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I
on presentation mode.
Okay. Good evening, colleagues, and welcome back from your break. We're now going to do the last part of the presentation, and I'm Adele Nudia, and I'm also an assessor for Pharmacy Council. And I know all of you had a long day, so we're quickly going to go through an example. But from the polls, I can see that most of you are understanding what we would want from you for a successful submission. So what we're going to look at now is we're going to have a look at the portfolio of evidence example, just for you guys to get an idea of what is required and to see all the steps that should be in each of the phases. So first of all, you can see we have a learning title for you, and you've already selected that, participation in the COVID-19 health campaign at Steve Biko. And as you can remember, it falls within domain 1, and it's competency standard 1.1. So what triggered my learning need? We want to know why you want to learn this. My pharmacy manager asked me to participate in a campaign, and I did not know what this entailed. Then my learning need, I need to learn to promote to provide advice and participate in a public health campaign. And the last thing is what I hope to achieve. I hope to be familiar with the steps to participate in a public health campaign. So as my colleague said, you can see all 4 of those things should be addressed within the reflection section for you to be successful. So when we continue with our example, the next phase you can remember is our planning. So now you must tell us what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, why you're going to do it, and please remember to link it to the behavioral statements, the BS. So it's important that you know these terms, because your assessor might tell you you did not address all the behavioral statements, or it's not aligned with the competency standard, so that you know what we mean. So what are we going to do? We're going to advertise the campaign to attract our target audience. I plan to make a poster with the relevant information, and I'm going to find the information on the Department of Health website or wherever you're going to find it. I will include health promotion, healthy lifestyle, and disease prevention and control. And there you can see it's linked to the various behavioral statements. What else am I going to do? I'm going to ask my tutor to have a look at it. I'm going to use the poster in my campaign. I'm going to get feedback from the participants. So I'm going to have an attendance register. I'm going to obtain a participation letter. And then you can see if we plan to do screening, what are you planning to do? And I will do all this in order to be able to participate in a public health campaign. So you can see the planning should be very comprehensive. And I know interns always say there's only 1,000 characters, but if you use the abbreviations and you plan properly, there's sufficient space for you to put all of this into your successful planning. So there you can see there is a clear planning or the implementation. So remember the planning is in future tense. Our implementation is then in the past tense. So what did you do? The how? I consulted the following sources, for example, the National Department of Health, and that addresses Behavioral Statement 1.1, and it's evidence A. And you can even write EV for evidence. You don't have to write out evidence. It takes a lot of space. And the WHO policies, and that's evidence B, Behavioral Statement 1.1, and Pharmacy Council website. The what is I formulated my poster from these resources, and that addresses 1A to C. The how, the where, and the when is I presented the poster at the COVID-19 campaign of the hospital in an outpatient day, and there's my attendance register as proof, and you annotate that as 1.1D. The how, I did screening using my screening tool. You'll provide that. Maybe you'll give us some photographs. Remember patient confidentiality, and then you'll get feedback from your tutor, which you will also include as evidence 1.1D. So you can see you can use your abbreviations. You can just write. You don't have to write behavioral statement. We know what it is. So just make sure that you annotate and cross-link to the evidence and to the behavioral statements within the implementation. So we quickly have another poll for you. And there we want you to provide us, if you scan and look at the link, provide some examples of evidence you think that might be suitable for this competency standard. I've named a few now. So what else can you think of to prove to your assessor that you are now able to do a public health campaign? You are able to participate in a public health campaign. So as you can be very creative. We've seen amazing portfolio of evidence entries. So if you quickly look at this, scan the QR code and type some examples, what will you include as evidence? So Natalie, I think if you can maybe do the poll for us again.
Sorry, Adele, I'm just putting up the correct poll. Tabang's presentation wasn't updated.
Okay, sorry, you guys. We had a issue with one of the slides. So if you can just look at this code, please, and scan this one for us, and then name some evidence that you would use, or list some evidence, some examples. To view online, we're more than 300. So I think we might get some very good suggestions. Okay, a pamphlet, yes. So you can have a pamphlet, you can have a survey, we can have a poster, feedback, the attendance register, the campaign poster. So you can have your posters and you can have small little handouts that you send home with the patient. Natalie, what else do we have in that word cloud?
Poster and media, surveys. A register with feedback, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so all of you, a photo of the poster. You can actually have a photograph of yourself presenting. You can maybe take of the venue. Just remember our patient confidentiality. So there's a lot of things that you can do. You can, if you do screening tests, the area that you set up for your screening tests, to show all the forms that you have available. So there's a lot of things that you can include to show us that you are actually able to do a public health campaign or to participate in a public health campaign. So there we said the possible evidence. So we will have our source documentation, for example, the GPP, the page number where it tells us about screening or health campaigns or what the case may be. We might have some educational tools, our poster, a pamphlet. If you have a presentation, maybe there's a big screen, so you will make a PowerPoint. You can add that for us. A photo of you presenting to the audience, your letter of participation, your attendance register. But what is very important for this domain, and all of you, or a lot of you will be doing 1.1. Remember, this is for the public. If you look at the description of domain 1.1, it is for the community at large. So it is not individual patients in the pharmacy at the dispensing counter. This is a public health campaign. So we want to see the public in this activity. Okay, so now we go on to the evaluation, and you can remember the evaluation has 4 parts as well. So what was learned? I learned how to provide advice and participate in the public health campaign. The next step is, how has this influenced my practice? I'm now more confident to volunteer to participate in public health campaigns, and I'm more aware of public health issues. Subsequently, I participated in the diabetic screening. So there's my example. And a future learning need is, I would like to learn more about providing advice to healthcare workers. So you can see you did the public, and now you're going to another level where you're going to inform healthcare workers or colleagues. So then you will provide different information because they know certain things, and you can put it to them on a different level. So now we get back, you've submitted your assessment and you've adhered to the deadlines, and now you get your feedback. So what can you expect? You will see a comment that is dated, and it can either be positive or negative, depending on what you submitted. But please take it as constructive feedback. Learn from it. Your assessor might say the evidence is not sufficient, or it's not, the quality is bad, it's difficult to assess, or what the case may be. So just read what feedback you received from the assessor, address the comments, and then resubmit. Depending on the comments of the assessor, sometimes they will say the evidence was not sufficient, and then you'll have to redo the activity. If you didn't submit your evidence for your submission, if you didn't have an attendance register, you cannot have an attendance register 4 months or 3 months down the line. So depending on the feedback, it might be necessary for you to redo your activity. So just have a look at that. Sometimes your assessor will tell you you're on the right track, so look at this and this and this for future submissions. So just look at the assessor's comments, because your assessment will go back to the same assessor. Okay, so a typical example of an assessor comment, you can see there on your, the assessor said you should express your future learning need in terms of the competency. So let's say this refers to 3.5, you compounded a cream. So your future learning need cannot simply be, I want to compound another cream, because you've already done that. You've completed this activity successful. So in future, you want maybe to learn to do sterile compounding, or what the case may be. So it's not a cream that you mix again, because that's the skill that you now already have mastered, because that's why you submitted, because you already learned that. So think about the different competencies and the skills that you do within the pharmacy. So what else do you want to learn? Remember, a CPD is always a cycle or a portfolio of evidence. There's always something new to learn. So back to resubmissions, we've spoken about that already. So Tabang also showed you, if you get a message not yet successful, you will need to resubmit. It's very important to remember that a resubmission is a standalone, and it should be a new submission. If you compounded a cream and you didn't put, or you provided the incorrect expiry date, or you didn't have a new expiry date, you cannot allocate the expiry date 3 months after you have compounded the product. So you will have to do a new submission. So sometimes if it's patient confidentiality, you forgot to cover the patient's name, that is something that you can fix and resubmit, but the assessor will tell you that. But if it's something that was not there, it's a mistake that you made, as I said, for example, expiry date cannot be assigned 3 months after you have compounded the mixture, then you will have to redo the activity. So start a new portfolio of evidence unless the assessor recommended you to fix something, which you are able to do, and then see the guidelines for the conditions, the application procedure, and the timeline for the resubmissions. And to maximize your chance of being able to write the exam, please submit early. use the checklist, evaluate your own activity, and make sure that you don't need to do any resubmissions. And please submit early, submit regularly, maybe submit 2 or 3, get some feedback, see if you're on the right track, and then submit the rest of your activities. So resubmissions, so to prevent the need for further resubmissions, make sure that you follow the assessor's comments. As I said, it goes back to the same assessor. Sometimes interns think as when they resubmit, it will go to somebody new and they will get the benefit of the doubt. That is not the case. It goes to the same assessor. They will read the comments they made previously and they will check if you attended to the comment they made. Otherwise, you will again be not successful. So please do not just resubmit. Please change your submission to address all the comments. So as Tabang also mentioned, you can apply to remark your portfolio of evidence. As she said, you have to have submitted the entry twice already. There is also a fee payable upon submission, and it takes 14 days. You can see there for the results to be released. But if you follow the guidelines, you use the checklist, and you look at the criteria, there's no reason why your submission will not be successful. So just make an effort in the beginning, make sure that you know your manual, make sure that you know all the behavioral statements, make sure that you select the activity where you can address all the behavioral statements. Then there will be no need for resubmissions or remarkings. Very important, plagiarism. Tabang also spoke about the plagiarism software, so please look at that. Don't copy other interns' work. No AI-generated content. AI is struggling with legislation, and you want to do your own work. You want to show what you've learned. It must reflect your own work. If we see anything plagiarized or to interns submissions that's the same, it will be referred to the legal department of Pharmacy Council, and you can expect the penalties to be applied, and they will be severe, and that might mean that you won't be able to start your community service. So just do your own activity from the beginning and submit your evidence that you gathered in the pharmacy. So it's not just another hurdle, it's really a learning opportunity, so make the best of that. The next slide, as Tabang showed you now, is confidentiality. It's very, very, very important. You must always protect patient confidentiality. And please check. Interns sometimes forget they redact their patient's name in the Schedule 6 register and they leave all the other patients' names. If you do labels, there's a patient name on the label, there's a patient name on the prescription, there's a patient name on the printout that you submit. So please make sure that you redact the patient name everywhere in your evidence. And patient confidentiality only applies to patients. So you do not have to cover the doctor's name, the hospital, staff members where you do a staff training. You do not have to blank out colleagues or other healthcare professionals' names because our names are within the public domain. So there you can see 2 ways of annotating. The one I can still see is little scribbles. It's Mr. Smith. That is not acceptable. And also, we always tell our interns as well, please don't use markers that you use on a whiteboard. When you scan them in, they become translucent and you can still see the name. So make sure that you use a proper black marker, a Koki, to draw a solid line that the name is still not visible. And then another thing, please only block out what should be blocked out. Sometimes we get evidence where the intern has covered such a lot of information that you cannot assess it because you cannot read anything. So please blank out only what is necessary to protect your patient confidentiality. So you are now ready to start the stepwise approach and completing your activity. So what we did as assessors and moderators and council is we decided to assist you a little bit in how to choose a domain and a competency standard. So if we go to the next slide, you can see we made a decision tree for you to assist you in selecting which competency standard to select. So we have made them recommended, which we see is easier for interns to do. The evidence is accessible. The behavioral statements are easy to address or easier to address. So the recommended ones, we as assessors and moderators and the council would recommend you to select. Then there's possible one, depending on the sector that you are in. It is possible that, but they are a little bit more difficult to provide all the evidence. And then we have few that's challenging, and we do not recommend that you choose them. They are very difficult, and interns really struggle with them. And some of them is really not doable for interns. So I'm not going to spend long on the next slide. You can have a look at it. This presentation is a resource for you guys. It will be posted, so you can go back to this and have a look at what we have marked as recommended, what's possible, and what's challenging. Read through them and see what you do in the pharmacy and what will be appropriate for you. So you can see we did this for every domain. For 1.1, you can see we only recommend 1.1 and 1.6 for you. But if you are not working in a healthcare team or in a clinic where you do screening activities, then we will not recommend 1.6, then we'll recommend 1.1. So look at the recommended ones, then go to your manual, look at the behavioral statements, and think what you do in your daily practice, and then decide which of the recommended competency standards will be appropriate for you. So you can go back to this presentation and you can look at all the domains. There you can see we have 2.1, 2.2, which is patient consultation, patient counseling, and 2.6, that's pharmacist-initiated therapy, which we have made recommended for you guys because that is what you routinely do in the pharmacy, and the evidence is readily available for you to submit. There are some possible ones as well, but we would suggest look at the recommended ones. So you can go through all of them. You can see for 3.5, we have 3.5, that's a compounding one. We have 3.2 and 3.4, and you can see 3.1 is possible, but only if you're an intern in the manufacturing sector. So please look at this as a resource and then go back to your manual before you decide what you're going to do. We did the same for domain 4. There we would suggest 4.4 or 4.6. 4.4 is possible, recommended. There you can see it's only one. That's apply SOPs and policies in your practice, and we all do that on a daily basis. So you can also look at page 40 of your manual, and there you will get a definition of and examples of what a policy is and what a SOP entails. So you can select that one. 5, you can only do 5.3. So that's compulsory. There's no recommended and difficult. So it has to be 5.3. For 6, we have a recommended, that's 6.2. We have 6.3, that's possible, but there again, only if you're involved in the undergraduate training, formal training of undergraduate pharmacy students. So that will then be more appropriate for our academic interns. So you can see this is a very handy list for you to use. So please go back to the presentation and use this resource to decide what would be appropriate for you to minimize your resubmissions. Because if you select a challenging one, it's going to be very difficult to pass your submission. Okay, so now that you've completed the cycle, you've completed your whole CPD process on the platform, there's some guidelines pertaining to your evidence that we will now have a look at. And again, I'm not going to go through all the slides. You can see again, we've made a table for you, and there you can find some guidelines to evidence that would be appropriate for this. We talked about 1.1. You can see provide information, use a poster. attendance register. So you can see for some of them, we've provided some guidance for you to, as possible, but not the only possible additions to your evidence that will be appropriate to include. So you can, again, use this as a resource and scroll through all of them. You can see there's for 2.6, include the information pamphlet relating to the condition. If you had to look at possible interactions, you will have the professional information. You might have a patient information leaflet, the dispensing copy, the labels, the scheduling of the medicine that's appropriate for pharmacist-initiated therapy. So there you can see there's a lot of things, but we just provided some guidance for you for possible evidence to include if you want to select this competency standard. You can go through, you can see 3.1. Some of them we didn't give you recommendations. 3.5, that's the compounding one. It's very important pharmaceutical knowledge. Remember, if we compound something, we have to assign a new expiry date of 30 days. We have to assign a batch number. So we want to see that compounding record as well. So it's very important for you guys to use this as a resource and to check what should also be included. So for 4.6, it's a recommended one. You have to apply a policy and a SOP. So we would expect to find the policy and the SOP, and you need to show us how you complied with each step within the SOP, and you can find a list of policies in the manual, page 40. So 5.3, it's a compulsory one. And interns always submit a Schedule 6 prescription. Remember, everything we do in our daily practice is something legal. This is ethical and legal practice. So there's such a lot of activities that you can include in this activity. Please make sure that you use current legislation. As my colleague said, remember the scope of practice recently changed. So if you say, in some cases, you have the scope of practice of a pharmacist assistant post basic, you are using old legislation. Also make sure the regulations changed. It's now regulation 33 if you want to evaluate a prescription, for example, professional indemnity. Was how you applied that. So there's a lot of legislation, and what we want here from you is we want the legislation, and then we want some evidence to show us how you applied the legislation in your practice. And always, you should also remember, if a competency standard has 5 or 6 behavioral statements, it might be necessary to do 1 or 2 activities. For example, if compounding is one of the behavioral statements, compounding will be separate from the other evidence. So one activity might be sufficient, but sometimes you will have to do maybe 2 or 3 activities to fulfill all the behavioral statements. You can see for domain 6, the recommended one, 6.2. So there we want to see your agreed training plan. We want to know who the more experienced colleague was. We want to see how you did a self-assessment to determine your own learning needs. And we want to see the learning activities. Did you do a PowerPoint to train your colleagues? Did you have an information leaflet, or did you have a handout? So we want that. We want the attendance register. So you can see there's a few tips on what is also expected within domain 6.2. So policy development, it's important, 4.6, that's the recommended one. But interns do have trouble with this competency standard. Please go and have a look what's the difference between a policy and a SOP. The policy is a set of guidelines, and the SOP is a set of written instructions. For example, if you think of the national drug policy, that is a bigger national policy, where a SOP in the pharmacy is telling us how should we compound. We should get all our ingredients. We should get all our equipment. So that's written set of instructions. So please distinguish between the two, and then provide us a policy and show how you applied it, and provide a SOP and provide evidence to show us how you applied each step within this written policy or this written SOP, these written instructions. So if you want to show me you gathered all your equipment, take a photo of all your equipment and say, this is all my equipment I needed according to GPP 2.1.8C, for example. There's all my ingredients, there's my compounding area, there's my final label or what the case may be, and link each step of the SOP to a piece of your evidence. You will also find a list of applicable policies that you can apply in the pharmacy. As I mentioned, the national drug policy, there's sanitation policy, security, and please remember the GPP is not a policy document. So if you use the GPP to show us that you can apply a policy, there's 2 behavioral statements, so you will not be successful because then you didn't address behavioral statement A. You have to include a policy. So we have another poll for you guys. So if we can just do the poll quickly. Okay, so let's see. Which common challenges have you experienced during your internship? Working hours. Oh, yeah, the hours are long. Rude patients, language barriers, time for work, time management. Yeah, those are all very true. Sore feet. Yeah. Okay, so I can see the brand names, time for work, and I can see time is working hours. It's a big issue, and then you have to make time to complete all your portfolio of evidence activities. So that's when we go to the next slide. We asked some tutors, and you guys now have identified the same issues. We asked some tutors, what are the challenges that interns do experience in their internship? And we thought it's a good idea to show you these challenges. And on the one side, maybe to let you know that one, you are not alone. And two, that if you're experiencing any of these, talk to your tutor, get some guidance on how to address this issue. If there's something that anybody can help you with. So if you are aware of these things, and some of you already say language barriers, so there's a communication problem, adaptability. So the tutors also identified these same issues: time management, transparency, teamwork, low morale, suddenly you're tired, it's a long day. Some interns don't have a sense of responsibility. And I do think if you are aware of these issues that tutors identified, and some of you also identified this, is maybe to address them soon, to talk to your tutor or anybody else in the pharmacy, get some support. If it's not in the pharmacy, maybe from somebody else or a family member, but get this sorted early so that you don't have exhaustion at the end, or you're very unhappy, or so be aware of these. Maybe do a CPD. If you struggle with communication, maybe that might be one of the activities you do for one of your portfolio of evidence activities. Time management is very important, and my colleagues also spoke about that. You will have to sit down with the intern manual, plan when you're going to submit, plan when you want to write your pre-reg exam. You can see the tutors, on the other hand, also had a few issues and challenges they had. And one of them was the short period of time that they have to verify the portfolio of evidence activities. And you can see sometimes they have just 1 or 2 days. So what you as an intern can do is submit early. submit early so that your tutor has sufficient time to verify your portfolio of evidence. Tutors also feel that they don't have sufficient support. There's not a training plan. There's no standardized approach to the CPDs and portfolio of evidence. Maybe you are feeling unhappy. Your tutor has also a large workload. So now the two of you are struggling to go work. So there you can see communication is very important, and we thought it's very important for you to make you aware of this. Your tutor also has a very big workload. They have to be responsible for everything. They have to be responsible for you. So I think open communication is very important for you to be aware of this overload that you are experiencing. Maybe talk to your tutor, sit down, have a chat. How can you manage this? Is it a core competency development issue? Then maybe there can be some training. Is it a skill? You can maybe do a short course. Is it an attitude issue, or are you just tired? But talk about this in the beginning of your internship to ensure that this doesn't become a problem, and just to be aware of this. So finally from us, please make this a learning opportunity. It's a very good experience for you to become a pharmacist, develop in everything that you do. You can succeed, you and your tutor. You have to become a lifelong learner. You have to submit 6 activities yearly from now on. So to be successful, we have to become all of this. We have to learn, we have to experience, we have to constantly develop. There's always something new. And to succeed, you have to become a lifelong learner. So from all of us, I think for the presentation, that is all, Tabang. We just have the attendance register, and good luck to all of you. It will get better. The CPDs, once you use the checklist, they will become easier. Once you start doing them, when the first one's done, the next 5 will be easy. But use the manual, use the presentation, go and listen to the presentations again on the website, look at the manual, ask for assistance from your tutor, talk to people in the pharmacy. There's a lot of assistance, you just have to ask. So thanks, Tabang. That's all from my side. I think we're going to the Q&A now. Natalie, I think you will be handling the Q&A, if I'm not mistaken, or somebody from the office.
Thanks, Adele. We'll dive straight in. The first question. Good evening. I submitted my first CPD beginning of Feb, and I don't know if I should be worried because after my tutor verified it, the status changed to submitted for moderation instead of submitted for assessment. What also confuses me is that on my side, it still has editing options and allows me to edit it to date. I know that I'm not supposed to be able to edit anything once my tutor has verified my work, so I don't know if it's a glitch on the system. I'm just worried and want assistance in case there is something that needs to be done on my side. Last week, I submitted my second CPD and I did not experience the same issue. The status changed to submitted for assessment as expected. I did log an incident, but I haven't been assisted.
Thank you, Natalie. Yes, I think it should be a system glitch. We'll appreciate if the intern can submit that query again tomorrow, and because we will need the PIN number in order for us to do the investigation. So if they can submit that query again, we'll try to assist. Thank you.
Good evening. The SAPC has been using the same domain 1.1 example for years now. It is starting to seem lackadaisical. Wouldn't it be better to use another one or a different domain?
Okay, thank you. I think the assessors will add, but we are using the same domain. And if you can even look, it's about COVID, because what we have realized is that whenever we use an example, interns, they will submit an entry on that example. So we decided to stick to that one of COVID because at the moment we're no longer experiencing COVID and we're not expecting any submission on COVID. Maybe Mr. Makado and Adele can add to that. Thank you.
Yes, Tabang, I agree with you. I agree it is an old example, but in the way back we had an example of a morning after tablet that was dispensed, and then all the interns did that for pharmacist initiated therapy. So we did decide to give an example that the interns cannot just copy, but they should use the knowledge to apply it in their own situation, and that is the rationale for sticking to that submission.
In domain 5.3, behavioral statement C, the requirement is keeping abreast and application of the latest legislation. Would reading proposed regulations and making comments be an example of this?
Yes. So we want to see where do you go to find or to stay updated with new legislation. So say, for example, you go to that tab on Pharmacy Council's website, you provide a screenshot of where you go to find new legislation, either in SAPRA, the new schedules, or on Pharmacy Council's website, and you give us an example and how you used that. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, let me add. Yes, although most interns, will go for Schedule 6, but typically, if maybe one is doing the CPT for Section 21, medicine procurement, obviously under PS number C, you may need to go and check on the Department of Affairs website to see what is the latest information about Section 21 items. So that is what we are referring to. Thank you.
Please explain the concept date stamps for the evidence. Does every photo need to have a date on which it was taken? Do I type the dates on which the photo was taken?
They can write the date on as well. We do have to know when it was it part of the campaign, was it on another day? For example, if they do compounding, we want to see how you compounded, so that will be in one day. So you can date the pictures, but by hand. It's not necessary to stamp it or type it. It can be done by hand. And this is me compounding, or this is my tutor standing next to me, or just identify and date the photograph.
Maybe to add here, Adele, like in the example of a compounding, yes, we know that we need to see evidence that this product is having expiry of within 30 days, for example. So if we do not know the date at which it was prepared, then it's going to be very difficult because we need to link the 2 dates as well. So dates are important. Like even you're doing the campaign, we need to see that, remember, under evidence, it needs to be current. So we need to see that this campaign was indeed conducted maybe this week or whatever way. So that is why date is important.
There currently are a lot of interns without placement. The law states that internship is compulsory. If interns aren't placed, how would SAPC advise they proceed with CPD while waiting for placement? Also, in the last workshop, the plagiarism software was mentioned, which interns reported to have had serious faults last year, catching phrases like Pharmacy Act and MRSA. How is this being addressed?
Okay, thank you, Adele. I will take the second and the third questions. Maybe my Ms. Pungo will address the issue of placement of interns. So with regard to the second questions of interns who are not being placed accessing the CPD platform. According to the requirements of internship, an intern must be registered with council and be having a tutor and be in an approved facility. So once you don't meet all those requirements, you are not yet an intern, and as a result, you won't be able to submit your entries as an intern. So they need to satisfy the registration requirement as an intern first, and then they'll be able to access the website. And then this other part of the question is about the plagiarism detection system. I think in my presentation, I indicated that the system is currently under maintenance because those are some of the issues that we picked last year, which our developers are currently addressing, like those commonly used terms that the system was picking for as similar terms, like pharmacy council, SAPRA, GPP. So that's why the system is not yet used until all those challenges that we identified last year are addressed. Then the system will be back. So we are aware of those and they are receiving attention. Then I will request Ms. Pungo to answer the first part on the issue of placement. Thank you.
Good evening. Tabang, maybe before I go to the issue of placement, it's just to say that there is no intern who I do pick up that is either maybe a tutor or previously registered intern who's probably raising the issues, which are correct, but there is no intern who was compromised because of those challenges. Also because what the system does when it does come back, it will identify, similarities and all of that, but for you to be deemed to have plagiarized, it's a long way process, okay? You have assessors and moderators that are also needing to form part of, the evaluations that support that there is a plagiarized work that's been submitted, okay? That's just to comfort the new interns that probably have no idea what we're referring to. But on the issue of placement, we are, as Pharmacy Council, aware that there's placement issues. They did not only start in 2026. They've been there for a little while now. And what the office has done, if I can just maybe inform interns and tutors that are here, is that while they are away, there have been engagements with some of the with the stakeholders, just to talk about what it is that the pharmacy profession as a whole needs to do in order to ensure that the education and training, which is the internship year, is provided for all that have graduated with a BPharm and needing to do internship. But also just to add that wholesale is also one of the new sectors. I'm sure you saw on the slides that were being presented, just so that we spread that word because it's fairly new. And so we can ensure that, the graduates are able to attend or do the internship here successfully and be registered, obviously, to be able to conduct or undertake their internship. So there is work that's being done, but which involves stakeholders, employers, employer being government, private, and all of that. I hope the answer satisfies the person behind the microphone. Thank you.
If you submit 2 CPDs at once, do you get the results at the same time?
Yes. If they are submitted in the same cycle, you will get the results on the same time when they are released on the dates in the manual.
How do I identify a trigger scenario in a case where the only trigger to do a CPD is that it's a requirement by council? Secondly, how do you know that the evidence is enough?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Makara, you go first.
Yeah. On the trigger, let's say you want to do a CPD, let's say for receiving of maybe stock in the pharmacy. The trigger could be that in that situation, you have never been there. So, or maybe the pharmacy manager has asked you to receive something that you have never done before. So that becomes a trigger for you now to start learning how to do the receiving in the pharmacy. Probably it depends on what domain you have chosen. If you have chosen under domain number 4, maybe applying SOP or policy, the trigger should be maybe someone has asked you to receive stock and then you did not know how to do that. Then it becomes a trigger, it becomes a learning need, and then you can go according to that. Second question, what was this again? Maybe Adele will cover number 2. Thank you.
The question was when you know the evidence is enough. That's why you have to carefully evaluate each behavioral statement. Some of the behavioral statements would require more than one piece of evidence because there's one behavioral statement say, applying the Pharmacy Act, the Medicines Act, and relevant legislation. So there you can clearly see it will be more than one piece of evidence. So what I can suggest is once you decide what you want to do, take the behavioral statement, evaluate the behavioral statement, see, okay, there's the Pharmacy Act, so that will be one piece of evidence. The Medicines Act, so for example, the scheduling or what the case may be, that will be one piece of evidence. And then think, what is other relevant legislation, for example, when you dispense? The labeling. You must be under direct personal supervision. There's a few things that you can think of, but what is important for you is to look at the behavioral statement and decide, okay, this piece of evidence can be relevant to this first part. I need the Medicines Act to be included there. So then you can see, okay, that there might be 3 pieces of evidence that I can quickly think of. And if your annotations are sufficient, if you can explain to the assessor why you included this piece of evidence and why it addresses behavioral statement A, then the assessor will probably give you the benefit if your annotations is sufficient and the evidence is valid and it relates to the behavioral statement. So there's no recipe, but you will have to go and look at each behavioral statement and then decide, okay, this should be Pharmacy Act, Medicines Act, other relevant legislation. So just by reading this, you can see, okay, more or less 3 different things. For another behavioral statement, for example, the compounding SOP or portfolio of evidence, there's only one behavioral statement. But sometimes interns think because there's only one behavioral statement, it's a very easy portfolio of evidence activity to do. But you have to include the GPP or the SOP. You have to show us all the equipment, all the ingredients, the whole compounding process. You have to have the batch manufacturing document. You have to assign a new expiry date. You have to ensure batch traceability. So we need the expiry dates, the batch numbers. We want to see the final product. We want to see the label that's adhering to legal requirements. So you can see there's one piece of, there's one behavioral statement, but it's a whole process. So you will have to talk to your tutor, you will have to evaluate the activity and then decide, okay, I need this, this, and this. So unfortunately, there's no one short answer, but I do think evaluate each behavioral statement and then decide what would be sufficient to prove that I can achieve this behavioral statement. I think that's all.
Thanks, Adele. For the Research Competency Standard 6.6, if you are doing research as part of the activities at an academic hospital, would a research proposal suffice, or does council require the full research report as evidence?
Just the proposal is not sufficient because if you look at the behavioral statement, you have to show that you can do the research. So we will need the proposal, then how you gathered the data, how you interpreted that, and then your write-up, your recommendations, your results. So it's not only the proposal. We would want to see the research that you conducted and the literature and the recommendations you made, the conclusions you made. So the whole process.
With the expiry date issue, is it compulsory that it be within 30 days? Can you compound preparations with longer expiry dates?
No.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think, yeah, okay.
Sorry,
You
it's
see-
in the regulations. So they
Yeah,
have to find the regulations. Sorry, Mr. Mercado.
Okay. I think you have indicated that according to the regulation, it has to be within 30 days, unless if maybe you can prove stability, if you can have documents that you can prove stability, then in that case, we also accept. But it is in the regulation that it has to be within 30 days, and you can get that information from the Medicine Act.
If I didn't reference some of the evidence and a description of implementation due to word count limit, will I be punished?
You see, not really to be punished, but as we did indicate, for you to get full marks, you need to give those kind of reference. So obviously, if you do not put that full reference or whatever way, so it means there's 1 point that you will not have.
And Natalie, if I can maybe add to that, even if you don't get fully met in the implementation phase, you can still be successful in the submission. So depending on how you presented the evidence and the annotation within the evidence, say, for example, you get a partially met in the implementation phase, you can still be successful in the activity, even if that wasn't a fully met, if that can provide the intern some comfort.
Domain 3.1, medicine production according to GXP. What other type of evidence could be suitable?
Oh, in production, just thinking of it, maybe the raw ingredients, the line opening, the line closing, the documentation, some photographs of the production line. Some manufacturing interns just have to be careful for proprietary information. So they have to talk to the tutor and just ask what they are allowed to provide. But that usually line opening, line closing, cleaning, the supervision, the sign-offs, things like that, the batch counts, the raw materials that they used. I've seen submissions that included all of those. I don't know if you can add something to that.
Thank you, Adele. Yeah, like you said, it needs lots of, the validations, whatever, and they want interns to apply Section 15 of the Act. So it needs more information, and there are a couple of SOPs that need to be provided as well. Thank you.
All right, we have a few minutes left in this session, so if there are any other burning questions, please can the interns either put their questions in the comments on YouTube or share them with us in the Q&A. The next question, good evening. The website said that we should not submit any CPDs before this workshop. I was only able to attend tonight and the date for submission was 23 Feb. Now the next one's feedback is only end of March. Immediately, we are set back a whole month because we had to wait. Because even if I submit tonight, I will only receive feedback end of April.
Thank you, Natalie. There is a reason why we advising interns to wait for the workshop, because this is where they will get guidance on what to look out for when they preparing their entries for submission. This is not the first workshop for this year. We had our first workshop on the 11th of February because we took the next submission deadline into account when we were scheduling the workshop. And it's unfortunate that the intern couldn't make it on the 11th. But I think the information that the intern gathered from this workshop is more valuable. And instead of submitting one, the intern can start working on other entries so that at least they can submit 2 or more on the next submission deadline. Unfortunately, the intention is not to delay you, but the intention of the workshops are just to make sure that you are ready, you know what is needed or required of you in order to succeed in your submissions. Thank you.
Tabang, I can maybe add to that. What I would suggest to the intern is, now that you have all the information, start working on your other portfolio of evidence entries, get everything ready, type them out, add all the evidence, just wait for the feedback that you receive from the one that you have submitted. See if there's any major mistakes that you made. You can quickly fix them and then submit, and you can still be in time to write the August exam. So start working on them, just don't submit them, wait for your initial feedback, and then if there is an issue, just fix it on the day and submit all of the 2 or 3 that you've prepared for now.
Next question. What do you guys say about Netcare underpaying interns?
I think I'll answer that. So remember, there was a slide that said that internship is your fifth, right? And I'm going to speak because I've also been an intern in my life, that if I had looked at internship as a job, I would have probably kept moving from one placement to the next, because then when I look on the website, there's an internship post somewhere and they're paying much better, and forget that there's learnings that I need to draw. I've got a good relationship with a tutor here that supports the work that I need to do in order to complete my internship program or year. And I'm building long life relationships. So you look at the environment being conducive to you in order to be able to complete and meet all the components that have been articulated to you as the requirements for release from internship. And this is what some of the challenges that we are seeing is that interns are spending time moving from one pharmacy to the other, and we are not aware that there is a benchmark for, market salary for interns. Some interns are willing, with the lack of placements, to even maybe subject themselves to something similar to a stipend. And if you look at other professions as well, they may not necessarily be getting a salary, they may be getting a stipend. I mean, interns in academia don't necessarily get paid that much. So I think one needs to just reflect and introspect on what it is that they stand to benefit once they've got placement over and above what they could be getting paid for. And that, I think, that is our view for many of us who've been interns in our time. And now we have managed to complete the requirements for registration as a pharmacist. So do introspect, and if there is an issue, I guess labor can look at it. If the alleged employer is doing what is being alleged, we can't really, we don't know of that, and therefore we may not be able to fully comment on the question that's been asked. We can just support the journey of internship in terms of what you as an intern stand to benefit at the end of it. Thank you.
If an intern started with an academic internship, but due to complications dropped the project and now wants to move to a normal internship in the pharmacy, what is the process? The intern is still registered as an intern.
Okay, thank you, Natalie. I think that speaks to the section of contract that I touched on in my presentation, to say interns can change the pharmacy where they are training or the tutors. So the process is just for them to find a new tutor in a pharmacy that is approved to train interns. And once that is done, they must just apply for cessation of contract, because now they must sign a new contract with the new with the with the new tutor. Yeah, I think that is the process they need to follow. I'm not sure, Mlalo, if I'm leaving out anything else.
No, you have covered it, Tabang. Just a session of contract between your soon-to-be former and allow a new contract to be processed with SAPC through an application, and the application is available on your what do you call it, on your secured site, and it comes through online and it gets processed speedily. Just to make sure that you don't have a gap is to ensure that where you can plan, and that's why I speak of a good working relationship with your tutor, so that if they are moving pharmacies, if they are leaving their employer, they're able to take you in confidence and let you know. Then you apply within 7 days for you to apply, then there is no gap in your internship program. So again, we always will encourage good relations. But I mean, there's also unforeseen circumstances which you're not going to get penalized over, but it's a session of contract. Thank you.
How long will this work that is being done to ensure interns are going to be placed take? What would be advised to interns that have not been placed to date? Is there a plan for us?
Please don't get tired of hearing my voice tonight. I think I've covered it in two of the questions that were asked, in terms of what's currently being done about lack of placements. It's not being ignored. It is being addressed. I think I've covered it, and I don't wish to say any more lest I contradict myself. Yeah.
How many attempts do we have on CPD submissions, and what's the maximum number of CPDs that we can submit in each cycle?
I would like to take it, but I mean, there is a page on the manual that has all that information that you're asking, but I think Tabang will give you just an idea so that you can actually engage with it and understand it better, so that you can plan better as well, because it would still need to comply with the timelines of marking and all of that. So Tabang, you can maybe summarize the slide that you captured.
Okay, thanks, Mlalo. With regards to the submissions of CPDs, we don't have the maximum number of attempts at the moment. The interns are given an opportunity to submit until they meet the requirements. And yes, and we don't limit you on the number of entries you can submit per cycle. As long as you and your tutor are happy with the entry and you feel everything has been addressed, you are free to submit. So yeah, what is the deadlines? I think I've spoken about them. They are there in the manual as well. I think it's page 32. You can always familiarize yourself with the deadlines, and so that you can plan accordingly and make sure that by the time the exam bookings are open, you meet the requirements. Thank you.
Yes, if I could just add, it's page 33. There is a section there that talks about when you actually start paying for the CPDs. So if you can just or maybe look at that page, the information is contained there. Thank you.
For the compounding CPD, can I use USP and BP standards in conjunction with GPP? Can I use general guidelines for a product I have made, for example, assigning an expiry date that is after 14 days for a liquid formulation that does not have a preservative?
Yes, the expiry date can be shorter, and you can use the BP, or I can't remember the resources now. You can use other standards and as a motivation for your expiry date. And 14 days is fine, 7 days, or what the case may be, depending on the active ingredients. That will be perfectly fine.
Can I still make submission of evidence collected in late January for the product that I compounded then?
Yeah, if you captured all the evidence, you can submit it. Remember, it should just be in your internship year. We have a lot of interns that get everything ready and write the portfolio of evidence submission and then submit it later, as long as it's your own work and it's been collected within your internship period. That is fine.
For an intern from industry completing my hours at the hospital while rotating through the different departments, is it fine if the pharmacist from the department I'm rotating in signs my evidence instead of the supervising pharmacist?
Yeah, that's fine, because your tutor will still verify it on the SAPC platform. So the pharmacist that's supervising you can sign that you did this under their supervision.
When using abbreviations in your portfolio of evidence, can you use the abbreviated version in your portfolio of evidence cycle and give the full words in the evidence with the abbreviation in brackets?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's just that sometimes interns complain that there's not enough space. So, but you can.
Can I do my master's as a part-time program and still complete my internship in a pharmacy?
Sorry, Natalie, will you repeat that question? I missed that.
Can I do my master's as a part-time program and still complete my internship in a pharmacy?
So is it a community intern, not the academic intern then?
I would assume so.
Yeah, Adele, I'm reading it the same way, that as long as you're not part-timing the academic internship, I mean, if you're able to study at night, but you are fulfilling all the duties of the sector where you are registered as an intern. That's how I'm reading the question from the way it's posed, Adele. So I think we're reading it the same way, yeah.
Yeah,
so
me
you
too.
can answer, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're an intern in community pharmacy or hospital, you can complete all the activities there, do your portfolio of evidence, and do your postgrad in your own time. If we understanding the question correctly, then it's okay.
Our last question, will a product that I compounded in January and which has expired still be valid as evidence as I couldn't submit earlier on?
Yes, if they did the activity in January and they assigned the expiry date correctly for 30 days and they have all the evidence, all the compounding evidence that they need of the compounding process, and they kept all of that, then they can submit it now because it's within the internship period. But if they don't have all the evidence, I would suggest that they do a new activity.
Thank you. That's the last question.
Okay, thank you, Natalie. And thank you, interns, tutors, and RPs who are with us tonight. Thank you for making time to attend the workshop. The intention of these workshops is to assist you so that you can be able to improve the quality of your submission and be able to be successful in your entries on time. So I will also want to thank the assessors who are with us today, Mr. Mercado and Miss Adele, thank you so much for making time to come and guide the interns on what to do in order to be successful in their entries on first attempt if possible. So with those few words, I just want to thank everyone from the office as well for making this workshop possible. We really appreciate your effort, and we wish our interns all the best with their internship year. And we also encouraging the tutors to continue supporting them, and with the hope that everything will be well at the end of the year. And with those few words, I just want to thank you all and wish you a good evening. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.